Hello, and welcome back to another episode. So, I recently just returned from an incredible trip to Florence, Italy, and I walked away with so many thoughts that I thought I would share it on this episode. Now, it's been quite some time since I've traveled abroad, and I realized that an escape from ordinary everyday life is important because it reminds us to actually step away. And that brings me to talk about the work life balance. The American culture in the US is often about working longer hours and having fewer vacations. And that's because we're constantly in that hamster wheel mode. In fact, many companies now have instilled the unlimited vacation policy because they're banking on the idea that most employees won't utilize all of it. Now, on the flip side, Italy, like many European countries, they emphasize on the sweet life, la dolce vita. Europeans embrace their leisurely lunches, they embrace their midday breaks, and of course, their generous vacation time. It's not just about working to live, it's about savoring life itself. For them, it's less about living to work and more about the richness of life itself. Now, something else that I noticed that was a difference was the difference in vehicles and non vehicles. The US is no doubt a car driven nation. And since 2020, the cost to own a car has increased 5 to 10%, if not more. Let's not forget about the cost of gas, of insurance, of a garage rental if you live in the city. Now, in Florence, everyone walks. Walking not just promotes having a better health lifestyle, but it also deepens the connection to their surroundings. Now, if you did own a car in Italy, I noticed that they were all the size of compact cars, like smart cars. I rarely saw a luxury car or anything that was on the larger size like SUVs. Here in the US, it's all about having the bells and whistles in our large luxury cars. Europeans just don't seem to care about that. One thing I loved about Italy was the spontaneous performances. I remember one evening I was in the plaza and there was just a man playing the accordion and everyone around him was just dancing around him. Then I would walk 5 blocks down and then there was someone playing the flute. And then as I would walk towards my hotel, there would be an opera singer singing in front of my hotel. Their art is not separate from life. It's woven into the same fabric. And I just appreciated that so much. Now let's talk about the food. I have to admit, I relished on every bite of bread, every forkful of pasta, and every spoonful of gelato. But it was well worth it. I really didn't feel bad since walking daily balanced out all the carb overload. One evening, we had a cooking class, and the chef was just so passionate about how he had learned to cook from his grandparents. Food is an art form to them, it's an expression of love, it's a generation of old recipes. And I also noticed that nothing was wasted. With all of the scraps, the chef would throw all the scraps into a pot and make broth for the next day. And I don't know what it is, but after all of the carbs that I ate in Italy, I really just didn't feel the same as when I have carbs in the US, which was feeling super tired and felt like I always needed a nap. They say that the US carbs are ultra processed and have artificial additives, where that is not the case in Europe. Now, a few episodes ago, I had talked about chasing your 11, your highest of your dream life. This trip was undeniably my 11. My trip was crafted and curated by a couple, Rob and Kim Murgatroyd, who moved from the US to Italy. This trip was packed with so many surprises that it really just couldn't be duplicated. They surprised us with an opera singer before we entered into the Duomo, which was actually a private exclusive tour before even the public was even allowed. It was only made possible because they had gotten permission from the Vatican. Then one day they got us into a private rowing club where we had the opportunity to row down the Arno River. Those were one of the many surprises that they had for us. I highly suggest that you follow Friday_Italia on Instagram, or you can follow Rob Murgatroyd on TikTok if you want to follow their life in Italy. They happen to be launching a class on how to move to Italy. And they recently promoted another opportunity to join their curated trip in 2024. And actually, they sold out within hours of making it public. They do have a wait list for cancellations or possibly adding another trip. So I'll leave that information on the show notes if you have interest in either moving to Italy or getting on their wait list. I did discover that Airbnb had something called Airbnb Experiences. That's something else I suggest you to check out the next time you go somewhere in another city or if you go abroad. It's actually pretty cool. What I've learned is that having experiences and creating memories is more and more important as we get older. Life is a tapestry of memories, and for me, this trip reinforced that sentiment. We spent so much of our time over our careers and our businesses in the US and keeping up with the Joneses, and it's just the complete opposite over there. Now, meaningful experiences can be crafted anywhere with anyone. We just have to be a little bit creative to create them and cherish them because it's those memories that you will have with you forever. Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Wong Way Street podcast. We hope that our conversations have inspired you to embrace the detours on your life's journey. Trust that the road ahead is full of endless possibilities. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Thanks, and see you again soon.